hopefully my audio sounds okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get rolling in here. Let's see, that is Royale Vasquez. Says, hey Ant, sounds good. Sweet. Thank you very much. Thank you for hopping in. Thanks for watching. First off, introduction. I am Ant Pruitt. Hope y'all are doing all right. It's Sunday. Unbelievable day as usual around here. I was going through some of my recent photos that I've shot, you know, trying to organize them and all of that before I do any type of post-processing. And I remember shooting these shots here and thinking at the time, I'm going to have to make these images a composite when I do the final edit. You know, that was my thought process while I was out there clicking away. And I figured I'd share that bit of the process as far as, you know, what I saw when I was shooting it and why I assumed that I could, you know, make this into a decent composite using Lightroom and Photoshop, and then maybe even make it a stock image that I could put up on Shutterstock or Adobe Stock or what have you. But that's just how I think when I'm out and about with my cameras. Just what can I create with this device that's in my hand? You know, it's sometimes I put a lot of thought into it. Most of the time it's just sort of, it just sort of happens. You know, I'm sitting there and I'm going through the viewfinder and I click something and I'm thinking, nah, this might look good if I turn it to portrait mode. Okay, click. Or this might look good if I blended it this way. You know, it happens. And that's the thing when it comes to photography, is those thought processes will start to show up a little more often the more you shoot. You know, so I always tell people that ask me, the question that I get every single week, almost every single day, hey Ant, what are some tips that I can do to get better at photography? And my answer is always get out there and go shoot, period. I don't care what you're shooting. I don't care what you're shooting with. Just get out there with a camera and start shooting. And if you don't want to go outside and shoot, you can always shoot some of the things that are in your home. Go to your kitchen, pull out some of your flatware or what have you. Pull out coffee mugs, something, pictures of your pets, whatever it is. Start shooting, start playing around with the settings and figuring out, if I change this setting, what happens? Okay, if I change this setting, what happens? It takes just tons and tons of practice to get better at it. That's the only way. That's the best advice that I can give you. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you my screen here. Let me see if I can do this right. There we go. I got Lightroom open, and as you can see, I have a bunch of images that I shot excuse me, at the nearby airport here in Charlotte. And I like to go out there just to sit around and watch the airplanes fly, coming in and taking off or whatever. I love the sound. I see Lightroom. Oh, the screen has been black the whole time. Oh man. All right, let me fix that real quick. All right, perfect. Okay, so as I was saying, I was at the airport and this particular group of images got my attention because I like how this family is out here watching the planes just like everybody else. But what really stood out is the fact that this little child has the ear protection on, and I figured I wanted to be able to capture that. But at the same time, I didn't necessarily want to screw up their privacy. So I wanted to make sure when I shot it, I got the back of the child where they're not recognized. The child's face is not there. The parents' faces aren't shown, you know, so they really can't be identified in this image. So I have the right to be able to shoot this, and if I want to profit off of it via Adobe Stock or Shutterstock or something like that, I can without a signed release. In most cases, I do want to get a signed release, but I like this composition better, and I want to work with it. But in thinking about this, I felt like this part is good, but it would look a little bit better if there was a way to incorporate an airplane, you know, in this scene some kind of way. It was a tough shot because I was shooting this from my vehicle, just sort of standing there with at my vehicle. And there's this trash can here that I thought was a little distracting, but I think it'll be okay for this shot. And then you can see there's a little bit of a haze over here on the left. I think that's because of a window frame or something that I was shooting through the door. But I don't know. I figure I can work through all of that and figure out a way to add an actual airplane in the background, because I got plenty of airplanes to choose from. But I want something like this. I like the idea of this particular airplane being on the runway. So what I want to do is incorporate or composite this shot with this shot. Might not be an easy task, might be fairly easy. I don't know until I sit down and try it out. So that's what we're going to do right now. So my first thing is I'm going to start processing this shot. Let's see, is this the one I like? Yeah, we'll work with this one. I like this one better because she's sort of looking out, and I like the action, if you will, with this shot. So standard processing here in Lightroom, I always want to go over to my dehaze option right here and just go ahead and get rid of the haze from the shot. That's the very first thing. And then a lot of times you can pretty much leave it, but I won't leave it because this shot is overexposed by a little bit. I did a bad job of getting my exposure set, but it's okay. I shot in RAW, and a lot of times you can recover from that. But I'm going to do something different from what I would normally do and just go ahead and hit the auto right here and just let Lightroom's computational photo editing just do its thing. So I'm going to hit auto and see how that turns out. And you see it made all of these adjustments here to the exposure, contrast, and so on and so forth. And it looks okay, but it's a little too dark for my taste. So I'm going to bring the exposure back up right here. So let's bring it up a little bit. And then I want to try to bring the shadows up too. And then bring the contrast up, because that's more of my style of processing. The highlights, I agree. Let's take the highlights down as far as we can take them down. And the blacks, let's see. Yeah, let's keep the black levels somewhat below medium. Okay, so that works with what I had in mind. Sharpening, we'll do most of the sharpening inside of Photoshop, same with noise reduction. But then I also like to make sure that I get rid of the chromatic aberration and tell Lightroom to use the profile for the lens that I was using at the time, which is a kit lens, and this is a 250mm kit lens. That works fairly well as long as you have good composition and can stay still and not get a blurred image. All right, so for the most part, I think this is okay. The saturation is a little low. I'm gonna boost that up some. Yeah, no, I don't want to boost it too much. Let's take it down. Oh, maybe just set the saturation to 0, take the vibrance down. See, what I'm noticing is his shirt seems to be a little hot. So maybe I do need to decrease the saturation just a touch. Yeah. Maybe let's just target his shirt in particular. So we'll go down to the HSL secondaries here. And I'll click on the saturation tab, and then I'll click on orange, and that's going to definitely affect his shirt, but it may also affect their skin tones. So we'll see. So we'll take that saturation down. If I take it all the way down, you notice the shirt just turns to mud. So let's take it back to normal and just take it down slowly. Right about there. Sweet. Hey, thanks, Joshua. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing all right too. So we're taking that orange down out of this shirt because the orange was just a little too hot. I think right about 36 or so might be okay. Yeah, that looks better right there. Okay, so next, oh, by the way, for you folks that are in the chat, if you can do me a favor, hit the share button on this chat screen. Share it out to your Twitter and Facebooks and all of that good stuff. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so let's get back to the screen. So now I have the first image fairly squared away from a processing standpoint. But as I said at the beginning of this live stream, for those just popping in, I wanted to somehow get an airplane into this image because I think it would make more sense and give a little more of a story to this image, because this child is sitting here with her ear protection on and she's looking out across at the runway. So why not find a shot that has an airplane in it? And I like this particular airplane, and I want to figure out a way to get that airplane into this shot some kind of way. But before I do that, I need to make sure that the color tones and whatnot are all squared away in this image, as well as how I set it up in the first image. So what I'll do is I'll click one time down here in the bottom, then I'll hold my control key and I'll click down here on the other image. Okay. And next we'll just hit sync. And all this is going to do is sync all of the settings as far as adjustments and whatnot from that image that I started with to the image with the airplane. That way it'll be fairly close when it comes to tone mapping and things like that, as the composition or as the compositing gets done. So now when I click on this one, it's definitely a little underexposed, but that's fine because my original image is underexposed. Okay, so we're good on that. Oh, wait a minute. I need to make sure the profile and all of that is squared away in here too. Yep, looks like it is. So we're good. So now what we'll do is we'll send this over to Photoshop so we can just make sure those two images are selected again. And then you can just right click and say edit in. And then you say Photoshop as layers. If you did edit in Photoshop, it's going to open both images up in Photoshop, but it won't put them all in the same file. We want to do it as layers. So we're going to do as layers. And Photoshop will begin to open. All right. Thinking. All right, there's the first image loaded. And we're waiting on the second image to load, and boom, there we go. So now I have two images here, two different layers. Okay. So if I was to hide this layer, you'd see the little girl and the family on the bottom. And if I unhide it, you get them right there. I don't want any of this. All I want is this particular airplane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the transparency by going down to this opacity slider and drop it down like that, just to give me a bit of an idea of what I'm working with as I start to blend these two images together. Okay, so first off, I see my runway and the bottom image is right there. So I need to figure out a way to move that airplane down to that runway. Okay, so the best thing to do is to click on that layer, and you can do Control T on your keyboard, or you would go to the edit menu and select free transform. What this does is it allows me to move the image around like that. Okay, And in addition to moving it around, I can scale it down or scale it up or anything like that. Or even if I want to, I can rotate it. Now, when you're doing the scale, make sure you hold down the shift key. That way it scales with the proper proportions. If not, see, I'm gonna let go. It won't scale with the proper proportions. See, I want to keep all of the proportions for now anyway. So let me undo that. Let me just cancel that. And I'll start over. Control T. Move it around. And see if we can line that up right along here like that. Let's see. See, it looks a little bit small also, so I'm going to scale it up. Now, the concern that you can have when you're scaling your images is you lose image quality. But with this shot, it's okay if I lose a little bit of quality because this is in the background of the image. You know, so since it's in the background, it doesn't necessarily have to be super duper sharp because my focus point is the family and the little girl in particular. So it's okay if this is a little less quality, and I'm going to blur it out some anyway, so it'll work. That makes sense? Y'all have any questions? So I'm just sliding it around out right about there. See, that looks like she's looking right at it that way. If I slide it over a little more, it's okay even if I pull it off of the frame a little bit. But let's try to keep the whole airplane in frame. Let's see how that works. Something like that. And then you just hit enter or click this little check mark up at the top. And that locks that in. So now, that looks like crap, especially if I were to pull the opacity back up. So let's go ahead and do a layer mask, which will allow me to just hide all of the stuff in the background of our top image, top layer, so it'll blend in pretty easily with the bottom layer. So what you do is you go over here to your layer panel, and then you click down here in the bottom at this icon. That's your add layer mask. Okay, and then you make sure you click on it, and you want to paint all over the image that you want to cover up. And when you're painting, make sure you're using black. Black is what's going to hide everything. Okay, so I'll just hit X on my keyboard to change that to black, and then I'll hit B on my keyboard to open up my brush. Okay, now unfortunately my brush size is super duper tiny, so let's increase that size like that, and let's start brushing away. Okay, so we're brushing all of that away because we don't need it. So far so good. Now this is not perfect, but we can, you know, try to get in here and pay attention a little more to the details. So we're going to zoom in like that, and I'll make this brush a little bit smaller, and let's brush away. You know what, let's just get rough. I'm going to brush away everything except for the airplane. Let's just do that. That way we know what we're working with. Okay, so everything but the airplane is gone. Monitor capture, desktop 2. There we go. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to break it. There we go. That's better. All right, so I've brushed away everything except for the airplane. So now let's take the opacity of this layer and boost it back up to 100 to see what we're working with. Okay. All right, so we could still play around and really fine tune this. So let me put back everything. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. You need to make sure you clicked on the layer mask. So I'm going to put everything back with the airplane like so. Cool, looks fine. So that's everything with the airplane is back in order. And in order to fine tune this, I am going to pull out my Wacom tablet and my little stylus, because it's so much easier to brush on the screen using one of these things. So let's go ahead and flip back over. So let's brush away everything we need to brush away. Zooming in really tight. Take our brush size down. Didn't make sure I clicked on the layer mask again. Such a rookie mistake. Brushing it away, brushing it away. Something like that. If y'all have any questions in the chat, feel free to ask. I am watching and listening. Yeah, like a magical trick. And the thing is, Joshua, there are so many cool images that are out there in ads and Instagram and things like that that are composites, and even down to the simplest of shots like landscapes and you know, sunrises and sunsets and all of that. A lot of times those things are composites because they weren't there right at sunrise, but they're able to get that sun planted right into that image, you know. Or especially you really see a lot of that when it comes to moon shots. Getting a great shot of the moon is not as easy as some people may think, but it's not terribly hard either. It's more about timing. So a lot of people will get that great moon shot and they will save that moon shot and they will composite it into another image, you know, just in case they need a moon to fit in. So it's not uncommon to see composites out there all over the interwebs or television. Photoshop is a super duper powerful image manipulation program. And the thing is, you can use it to your advantage and to the best of your ability to make your composition work for whatever you're trying to present, you know, or whatever story you're trying to tell. So don't be afraid to use Photoshop as long as it's able to tell the story that you're trying to tell. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. I'm not so sure about the green background. This light green / yellow that we got in there. But I want to wait until I really get this thing masked out. And there's probably an easier way to do this, such as I can make a selection around it. As a matter of fact, let's just do that. Let's just make a selection like that. So that gave me a selection like that. The thing with this selection tool is it is finicky, which is why a lot of times I just say screw it and start painting. All right, so we got that there like that. Okay, so now I want to invert that selection. So now if I want to paint, back on my layer mask, back over here on the layer mask, and I got my brush tool right here. So I can paint in here and it will only affect that selection. Affinity Photo. Yes, I do have thoughts on Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo, just started out editing my own shots. I have it open trying to match some of this here. And it's a bit hard to learn this UI. And Derek P says the pen tool. Yep, the pen tool is way better at getting those finite selections. I agree 100%. But like I said, a lot of times for me in particular, it takes so much time to get those to where I can just go in and make a rough brush and then zoom in and fix it by reversing the brush around. But yeah, Affinity Photo, Royal Vasquez, it is a pretty sharp program. I was able to try it out briefly. I never did buy into it, but it's pretty sharp. I keep getting emails about it to continue to try all of these new updates that they have. I want to say I just got an email like Thursday or Friday about it. It's telling me I should try to take a look at some of the new updates that the software has. But yeah, definitely. And Derek P, yeah, good point about the pen tool. So if I want to make a selection with the pen tool, I hit P, do this like that. I can get really precise like that. Make another curve like that. Undo, because that's a horrible selection. Like that. And if I want to just come over here and close it off, boom, I have a selection. And it works really, really well. And depending on your project, if you want to take the time to do that, you definitely can. Let's see here. So if I do a brush, let me move this down some. Go back to P. Close that selection. And now if I want to do a brush, I'm locked in to just brushing around this particular selection. See, it's not changing anything outside of that selection. Undo that, undo that. If I want to do an inverse, I could, but that's the pen tool. So now I want to get rid of that pen tool. There we go. Delete. All right, so that's that. But I think we're fairly good now with the masking, because again, this is in the background. It doesn't necessarily have to be super duper sharp or super duper detail, because if anybody's looking that close, they are pixel peeping, and I honestly don't care about people pixel peeping on my images. I mean, you really got to find something better to do. So, okay, for the most part, that looks pretty good. Not bad. Let me try to scale it up a little bit. Control T. We'll rotate it just a touch. We'll scale it a little more. Move it down. Right about there. Something like that. And then just click OK. And I'm going to go back to my layer mask again and just do a little more cleanup over here, and just do a little bit of cleanup under there. So let's zoom in some more, get rid of that, because now my concern is the tone in the background. You know, again, I want this to be as close to the same color tone as that layer below, as close as possible. How's that? Not bad, right? There you go. So let's zoom out, take a look, see. I shouldn't have put that spot there, so I'm gonna put it back like that. Put this back. Like that. Okay, let's zoom out a little more. And let's play around with this runway. Play around with that. Just try to match the tones up as best as possible. And of course, as I'm brushing that back in, I'm getting some other details I didn't necessarily want, but it's fixable. So we can get rid of that little green right there. All right. Went too far on that one. Let's go back. So probably should zoom in to give me a little more control. Brush that away. Like that. Okay. So now what I can do is I can start doing a little bit of cloning and getting rid of little things like this little post here. So I'll use this patch tool. Patch tool is right there. And I will just select this little thingamabobber like that. Uh-oh, hold on, I have to make sure I'm clicked on the actual image itself. There we go, not the layer mask. And just do it like that. Well, I gotta go the other way apparently. Still not enough, huh? Okay, well, let's do the stamp then. So just hit S like that. We'll get rid of that big brush size. We'll hit Alt right there to basically say we want it to paint in this way. Let's get rid of the selection, see if that makes it easier. So we'll do Alt again, and we'll just paint that in like that. Okay. And then I'll go back to the patch tool and see if I can get rid of this thing. There we go. That's better. It's a little better. It ain't great, but it's a little better. Again, that's all going to be part of pixel peeping that most people are not going to notice unless you're zoomed in at like 200, 300% the way this thing is. Nope. See, that's an opaque side over there, a transparent side, so I can't do it there. I'm going to have to stamp it. So we'll do S again. We'll hit Alt right there, and then we'll just try to brush it in as best we can. Nope, can't do it there, but that's okay. All right, I think we about got it. I can brush out and blend in this stuff a little bit more. You have these different blending tools here, like a smudge tool, and since I'm using the Wacom, I can just barely tap it and it'll soften it up a little bit like that. Don't want to put too much pressure on it. And see, all of this is very, very rough. I don't like that spot, so let's undo that. Okay. And I think I'm good for now. Okay, so what I'll do now is I will combine these layers together. Just do a merge like that. And then I will do some sharpening on them. And I have an action up at the top that's going to sharpen this image a little more. It's thinking. Okay, we hit stop there. Put these in a group. So now I'm going to take this bottom layer right here. We're going to put a Gaussian blur on it. And I'll bump it up to maybe, we'll go right about there. And then we'll do this layer above it, and we'll put a high pass filter on it like that. Push that number up. Don't want it too sharp. Right about there looks okay. And then we'll change the blend mode of that layer to linear light, so that way it's not gray. And that's 300% better. Might be a little too sharp, so let's take it down just a touch. Something like that. Okay, so now let's do a compare and contrast. So this is what it looked like before, and that's after the sharpening. You get a lot more detail in her hair right there, which is good. I like that. Okay, now I'm going to merge this group together as I get ready to finish this thing up. Okay, and I'm going to duplicate this layer by dragging it to the bottom like that. And I'm going to make, actually let me make one more duplication just to be safe. So we'll duplicate it there like that. So now I'm going to rename this part blur, and then we'll name this part sharp like that. Okay, and that's just so I know what I'm working with. And I'm going to do one more blur on this, so we'll say a Gaussian blur again. So I'm turning off that top layer, so all I see is this blur layer. So I'll say filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to pump it up a good bit because I want it to be more of a bokeh effect. And as I'm doing that, you remember the runway details we talked about? You see all of that's blurring away, and it's not as important, you know, because I had all of those imperfections, but it's okay as long as the color tones were pretty good. So we'll blur it right about there. And now when I go back to my sharp layer here on the top, I'll do one more layer mask right there. Why is that? There it goes right there. And then I'll just brush in. Uh-oh, I'm running out of this space. Not good. I'll just brush in. Make my brush bigger. The blurry stuff like that. Just brush it in. Brush it in. Brush it in. Don't want to necessarily brush in on top of my subject like that, so I'll fix that in a second. So we'll go back, hit X on the keyboard to bring that detail back like that. There we go. When you're working with layer mask, it's really convenient to be able to, you know, if you make mistakes, you can just erase your mistakes because you have a layer mask and you're, you know, processing non-destructively. So I'm gonna put a little more blur back here. Actually, I'm gonna go back and fix that. That's too much. So let's put that back. I want some of the detail of the plane. So the best thing to do is to lower the opacity of the brush up here, okay? We want it to blur, but we don't want it to blur that much. So we'll lower the opacity and we'll lower the brush flow. So now it blurs it just slightly around it like that. And I'm gonna do it on the plane too. Okay. Like that. See, that's looking better. Thanks for the thumbs up, Derek. So that's looking better. It's looking a little more natural because it's clearly an airplane, but it's blurred out just enough, you know, so you have a decent relation with the depth of field. Just enough. like that. And it just takes trial and error, playing around, trying to find that right look, you know. So I'll brush it away and I'll brush it back in. I'll brush it away and I'll brush it back in until it looks right to me. All right, I think that works, folks. It's composited in. Brush them out just a little more. Being like pro. That's what's up. Thanks, Joshua. There we go. There we go. Now the only beef that I have right now is I don't necessarily need this to say American, because I'm not trying to advertise for American. So I should probably get rid of that. So let's switch tools here. Let's zoom in. And we'll make sure we're on our airplane layer. And I'll see if I can get rid of this logo like that. Let's drag it over that way. Nope, can't do it. Got to use the stamp. All right. So that works there. Okay, so now it clearly does not say American. Now granted, the tail and rudder is pretty iconic, so I probably should fix that too. Maybe we could just do like a blur or something. A smudge. Yeah, let's do a smudge. See if we can, something like that. Something like that, maybe. I don't know. Okay, and then we back out. So doesn't necessarily look like American, but in a way it still does, but that's okay. We'll move on. So that's the main part of the composite and stuff that I wanted to do. Last thing I'll do is go ahead and merge all of these together. And then I'm going to make this image larger. But before then, apparently I'm running low on disk space, so I am going to fix my disk space. Just bear with me one moment. Okay, so now, do you see my screen? Yeah, I've been shooting for a long time, man, a very long time. All right, and plus I do a lot of video too, so it just takes up a ton of space. Okay, so lastly, what I want to do here in Photoshop is I'm going to make this image bigger. So I'm going to do image size, and I'm going to take this up to about 130% larger. And I want to do that because of the cropping that I'm going to do here momentarily, just to be safe. And click OK. It's going to think. It's going to choke. Almost there. Almost there. Okay, so the image is larger. And then I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to go back into Lightroom to actually finish this up. Still saving. I'll hit close. And now we're back to Lightroom. Okay. So we'll do the finishing touches here inside of Lightroom. I'm going to start with an adjustment brush. My computer's freezing. Don't freeze. There we go. So now I'll select clarity, and I'm going to paint some clarity onto my subject here, give it a little more sharpness as well, right there. Now just paint that in like so. Paint that in on them. My flow is a little low, so let's push that up some. So just paint it in, make them nice and crispy, like that. Just some detail stuff, like that. Now I ended up painting over the top of this little post. I don't need to do that, so I'm going to erase from that. So that doesn't necessarily need to be sharp. But these folks need to be fairly sharp, like that. A little more clarity in the grass here. Make that nice and crispy, like that. So now we clearly have a foreground and a background. Okay, so I'm going to do one more brush to soften that background. So I'm going to soften this just a little bit, like that. Something like that. Take the highlights down a little bit, like that. Take the exposure down just a touch, not too much. Something like that. There we go. So that softened it up just a little bit to give it a little more of a better blending. Okay. So now I'm going to do my cropping. So I think I can just crop that out just a little bit, like so. Bring this down a little more, right about there. Crop that like that. And then we'll do a little vignetting and some noise reduction too. So let's vignette this a little bit right here. And again, it puts more focus on our subjects right here in the front. Something like that. Now, as I'm looking at this for my last time, I don't necessarily like the back again, so I'm going to do one more adjustment brush, and I'm going to do what they call a burn. And I'm just going to darken back here a little more. It's a little too bright for me. Just darken it a little bit, like that. And then I'll do a slightly tighter crop. Something like that. And back to my adjustment brush, this one here at the back where we did the darken. I'm going to take that clarity down a little more, because I still want it to be a little fuzzy, but not terribly fuzzy. Okay, give it a little color. I'm going to go ahead and hop on out of here and get back to just chilling out on this Sunday. Thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you so much for hitting the share button and the subscribe buttons and all of that. I really do appreciate the support. And if you have any other questions, leave a comment below. I'll try my best to answer any and all questions and give the feedback that I can. And hopefully I see you guys over on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram at Ant Pruitt, and follow me on Twitter at Ant_Pruitt. And just stay tuned and hit the notification button so you know when my next videos are coming up. All right. Thanks again. Appreciate y'all hanging there for the technical difficulties earlier. But we got rolling, and hopefully you learned something with this. All right, folks. Y'all take care.